Hello everyone! Welcome to what should be our final video of Not Tonight. My name is Anna Mardal and we're about to end chapter 3 and go into chapter 4, which is pretty short. So, and if you hear little thumps and noises in the background, that would be the kittens playing with their kitten toys. Alright, chapter 4, as you may or may not recall, is all of 3 days long, which, I mean, thank God. If we'd had to go through another month of December, I think, or another month, I think I would have... I wonder if that was originally the intent, and somebody was like, yo, dude, this game is too long. Okay, so we have this identikit, and interestingly enough, the bomber looks different from the way he did in my first playthrough, which, of all the things to randomize, I guess they really wanted to make sure that you did all the extra resistance bits. So he's going to have a black cowboy hat, a red jacket with white cuffs and white buttons, and blue jeans and black shoes. And we are meant to give him the VIP card that will, I don't know, in some way track him. It's not really clear to me. Hey, baby. I have a kitten. We're supposed to wear the standard issue Euro rags for the ball, I presume, so that we'll look the way we did at the beginning of the game. Which, of all the things to be consistent about, that one stands out to me as like, really? that was what we kept consistent on. Okay. I could point out that I'm still using a cow clicker and I didn't have a cow clicker at the beginning. No, I'm not going to point that out. Okay, I can have 20 warnings, so... Golden ticket for Monday. Golden ticket for Monday. Golden ticket for Monday. And here is our bomber. So, I'm pretty sure, black cowboy hat, a red jacket with white button and cuffs, and blue jeans with black shoes. So, I gave him his VIP ticket. And now we just wait for the inevitable to happen. I feel like if he's gonna be bombing, the best thing I could do is just not let people in. But you may notice there's not a timer ticking down for once, which makes me suspect that what moves the plot forward isn't time so much as pushing through a set number of people. So, ethically, if it was just a timer thing, I would just slowly, I can't read, does this say Monday? And install. But yeah, we had to get a certain number of people in. Then the bomb happens. And for minor casualties, bomber bouncer trial begins tomorrow. For some reason, we're arrested. I don't really feel like that gets explained very well, but let's see how the trial goes now that we've made some slightly different choices in this game. Not many. This hero stands accused of being an accessory to the Albion first bombing. Maybe they found like the VIP card on the guy's person and our fingerprints were on it. I mean, I don't know. We kind of are an accessory to the bombing in the sense that we knew he was the bomber and didn't do anything to stop him. I'm not sure if legally that meets the definition of accessory. But, with no firm evidence and hearing the defendant's plea of conspiracy, we must consider their character. Please call witnesses to the stand. Okay, we've seen this one before. 112 was most generous. Despite needing money, they made sure I got my Viklov's charity funds. Great. 112 is cool. Always gave me stuff to go away. Okay. My best neighbor friend recovered my disco dancing medal. My savior, 112, freed me from the clutches of a blackmailer. This is ridiculous. 112 found my ring for me. He's a top bloke. I'm also not a he, Dave, but thanks. Agent Titmouse is the pride of the resistance. Nothing too small, nothing too big. I, Harrison Pace, I know how to act. The kindness of 112 is no act. Okay, so I still don't know what we were supposed to do with this guy. Twice now. So the first time we played, I just let him into the Chapter 2 Rock Fest or Indie Fest or what it was called. I just let him in whenever he asked to be let in, and this was what he said about me. The second time, I didn't let him in, and I never gave him any drugs. I refused him drugs, and he tanked my social score for it. So, my lawyer says that 112 is responsible for my 3 car crashes due to selling me those drugs that I now regret. So, I don't know if that's a bug or what, but I don't know what we're supposed to do with that guy, because one time I just let him in and never sold him drugs. And one time I didn't let him in and never sold him drugs. And both times he's said that I sold him drugs, which I never ever did. So I don't know what you're supposed to do with that guy, but it's really annoying. 112 worked hard. They contributed well above expectations and paid all relevant taxes. Financial records show that at least most of their money was earned honestly. They ignored the temptation of buying a completely illegal rhino head, illegal teddy bear, all but essential. They refused all but essential London Wall jobs. Okay, so we didn't take any extras of those. They wore appropriate clothing to jobs. So, okay, so this isn't Jupp, I guess. This is somebody else who's actually nice. And not dinging us for wearing police-issue clothing. They kept their social credit high throughout January. They kept the social credit high throughout July. They kept his social credit high throughout October. I'm not male. So thanks for continually misgendering me at this judgment, guys. Thank you. We have the evidence that the phone lines for the People's Vote are now closed. So we would have had a perfect score if it were not for that guy with the blue county fair ribbon who I don't know how we're supposed to treat or what we're supposed to do with. As a certified good Euro, we will investigate your accusations of Albion first. Court dismissed. I'm British. I'm as British as any of you bastards. Oh, it is Jupp. Why would Jupp testify honestly in our favor? That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they just have somebody else? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So now we get to do the ending where we talk to the developers, which is a cute way to do credits. I think I only resent it because it feels like they spent more time on the credit sequence than on an ending that actually made sense. Damien, you did decent audio. I'll let you in. Richard, we have something we need to talk about. And that something we need to talk about is that bullshit ending. Lucas, Lead programmer, I want to talk to you a little bit about your bug testing department. Mike, publisher. No, you're alright. Come on in, Mike. I'm not gonna bust you. Tim, creative director. I mean, you tried, Tim. It was creative, I'll give you that. Spanish translator. Well, I can't speak to the veracity of the Spanish translation because I haven't played it, but come on in. Rafael. The art is fine. Asking me to differentiate the difference in a face when only one pixel is different is not fine. Okay? Do something like have the same picture but give you a different color hat or something. I could do that. Although people who are colorblind probably couldn't. Oh god, can you imagine trying to play this game while colorblind? You couldn't because there's so many cases where the only way you can tell their clothing is like some tiny little bit of a shade of color difference. So anyway, okay, so that's not tonight. I'm so frustrated because the main reason, well, a main reason why I wanted to go back and do, there was 3 reasons I wanted to go back and do it from scratch. One was I realized late in the game that those CDs we kept collecting were for Shannon. Because the first 2 chapters I didn't know what to do with those CDs, and it wasn't until the 3rd chapter that I was like, oh crap, we give them to Shannon. So I wanted to go back and give Shannon the CDs, which didn't really change much. It's barely changed the ending in terms of what she said about us. The second thing was I wanted to give Galahad the spy kit, which I'm pretty sure you're supposed to do because after that chapter, it looks like he's wearing the spy kit stuff as though you'd given it to him. But I don't know when you're supposed to do that because by the time you get the spy kit, you never see Galahad at a gig again that I could find. And then the third thing was, I knew I had screwed up something with the county fair guy because I hadn't thought twice about him. I just let him in all the times he'd come to the county fair and said, let me in. And I'd been like, oh, sure, fine, whatever. Who are you? But I don't care. Go in. And then at the end of the game, he was like, my lawyer says he's responsible for my car crashes and the drugs that I took. And I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? I never sold him any drugs. I just let him inside the rock festival. So I thought maybe, okay, maybe he got drugs inside the rock tent, right? Or reggae, or whatever that chapter was, chapter 2, which I think is plausible. Maybe he was sold drugs in there. So instead, on the next playthrough, I thought, well, I just won't let him in. That's the opposite of what I did the first time, right? Before I let him in, so now I won't let him in. And he got upset with us and said, you're going to give us drugs. And I thought, aha, that's what that was a reference to. No, sir, I will not give you drugs. So we didn't give him drugs. And he busted our credit score by like 20 and said, this is not over. But it actually turns out that it was over because we never saw him again. And I don't know if I did something wrong, but it surely isn't intuitive. And then for him to show up and be like, my lawyer says blah, 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 and have the exact same thing about how supposedly we sold him drugs and he got into car crashes, to me that just reads like buggy. There's some kind of flag that's not being thrown. So that really frustrated me, and in fact that was why it took me so long to get around to doing chapter 3, because I had wanted to do a perfect playthrough of the game, knowing the ending now that, oh, okay, I need to do this thing for Galahad, and I need to do that thing for that weird guy at the reggae fair, and I couldn't do either. So there's something wrong with, I think there's something wrong with the game as it's written. It's possible there's just something wrong with me and I couldn't figure something out, or I did something wrong. But if it was me, then I don't think it was very intuitive of the game, because how the heck were we supposed to figure this out? So anyway, that's not tonight. We got 35 videos out of it. So if you've enjoyed this Let's Play, then you've had a great month. If you haven't enjoyed this Let's Play, then you probably haven't, and I'm sorry. I will try to pick something else to play that maybe you will enjoy.
I've given the game a lot of crap. I enjoyed it for what it was. I'd give it, a solid 3.5, 4 stars of 5. I don't think in its current form that it's. I think it's like $20 on Steam right now. I don't think I would have paid $20 for it, knowing now what I do, that it's still kind of buggy and being worked, and it feels a little early accessy. We got like 7 updates in one day or something. That was wild. Which I do understand. I know it's hard being a games publisher right now. You've got to get it out and make money because you run out of money, and then you use the money to try to fix the things. I get it. I'm not trying to rag on an independent publisher in any way, sense, or form. That wouldn't be kind. But if you could find it, on sale on Steam for like, $10 or $15, maybe not 20, but I think it's definitely worth a playthrough. It's, especially if you liked Papers, Please. It is fun. I especially like the drug selling part, because that adds that extra layer of paying attention to their clothes, not so you don't get a warning, which is the negativeness of I messed up, but for a positive that I got more money from that guy. That's fun. So that part I really like. I wouldn't mind seeing like an endless mode, kind of like Papers, Please had. Story wise, it fell flat for me. I thought the political points were fine. I know a lot of people didn't like it for the political points. I thought the political points were fine as far as they went. If anything, my criticism would be that they didn't go far enough. Not that they didn't make Albion first cartoonishly evil, because they did, but because I don't think cartoonishly evil is what is really wanted or needed here. The antagonists in Papers, Please were evil, but they were realistically evil in a way that, to me, honestly made that game terrifying at points. I found the game enjoyable. I enjoy playing it. I love it a lot, but there are definite points that are scary. Whenever the inspector is coming, like, I was never scared of Jupp. Jupp is evil and gross and has kind of har funny lines. I wasn't scared of him. The inspector in Papers, Please, I was terrified of him, because he was evil in a realistic way, whereas Jupp is evil in a cartoonish way that just kind of felt like he wasn't something to take seriously. So when I say it didn't go far enough, I don't mean it didn't go far enough in portraying the bad guys as evil, because the bad guys are evil, but they're so they're silly. And I also question whether you can effectively portray a fascist movement while dodging the horrible ugliness of fascism, which I feel like there were points in this game where they kind of ducked and weaved rather than grapple with the ugliness of that. And on the one hand, I get that as a creative choice. I understand not wanting to make your game so grim that everyone who plays it is depressed forever. And maybe making it more lighthearted so it'll be more accessible. But on the other hand, did that lightheartedness cheapen your treatment of a very serious subject? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I think it's going to be so subjective. Something that works for one player isn't going to work for another, and vice versa. So, with me saying here that didn't work for me, take that as a subjective, grain of salt thing, as opposed to, my statement on how art should be. It didn't work for me. It may work for somebody else. And then I think where else it fell down in a way that Papers, Please didn't was Papers, Please had lots of genuinely sympathetic people around you that were suffering from the system. And even the people that you were turning down night after night, it felt like they were doing their best. Or even if they did have fake or false paperwork, you understood that it was part of the world building that, like, refugees were fleeing these terrible places. So turning them down meant understanding that you were sending them to their deaths in many cases, or separating them from their families, or very serious stuff. And so while it was vexing if they were wasting your time or costing you money, at the same time it was very hard to be upset with them, because even though they were hurting you, and by extension hurting your livelihood and your family, you totally understood, because if you were in their spot, you would do the exact same damn thing to keep yourself or your family safe. I don't think that translates as well into a bouncer medium, where now the people who are bringing you fake IDs are trying to get into a club to dance and drink. And the thing of it is, I feel like there was a chance to try to address and fix that a little bit. Like, you could have had people who were coming in to the clubs to, work there, or meet with clients, or what if you had like a party of 7 show up and they were all dressed in a certain type of business attire to show that they were together, and you couldn't let one of them in because he was European instead of British or something. Well, now you're seeing the effect of how these policies are actually hurting people in a way that just some random dude out of the crowd can't go inside and get his drink on. That's racism, or I guess not race, but I'm struggling to think of the right word here, but that kind of ethno-nationalism, or however the right word would be, is harmful and bad, and I don't want to belittle it. It's just that not being able to get your drink on is obviously not quite the same as not being allowed to flee, as a refugee from horrible, terrible sectarian violence or something. It's very different stakes, is the word I'm looking for. The stakes at hand were different. And we did have the weekend bits where we go and let people in and out of the wall and everything, but it just wasn't quite, to me, enough of a break in the bouncer routine to really... The fact that they kept using the same language even on those jobs, saying last call and everything, it just felt like another bouncer job in a way that I felt kind of didn't help get that message across. So anyway, retrospective of the game, fun gameplay. For the most part, the clothing restrictions are BS, because it's very difficult to tell the difference between pants that are skin colored and legs that are just skin. There's no skin texture. And trying to match the IDs is also really BS, because the mismatched IDs don't vary enough from the very simplistic art. I mean, the faces in Papers, Please were more detailed than these faces, and that's saying something. So those parts I was not a big fan. Obviously, there's some bugs, but they'll get those worked out. Overall, fun game. Overall, I think the idea was good, and I'll even say creative. I mean, yes, it was, they're inspired by Papers, Please, but they took a mechanic and applied it to a very different thing, and I think that part was where the creativity is. And I do think, last but not least of all, that it was a huge mistake to do the whole Dave for my Larna plot, because that made me incredibly uncomfortable, and I don't think I was supposed to. That whole last week, and it's coming at the end of the game too, so it should be the emotional pinnacle of the game, this final week. I mean, the final week in Papers, Please is just heart-pounding terror. You're trying to you're trying to avoid this upcoming inspection that you know you're going to lose and you know you're probably going to die from. You're trying to gather passports to give to your family so you could flee. You're trying to help the resistant. You're trying to do something. The final week of Papers, Please is heart-pounding terror. The final week of Not Tonight is the hardest in terms of gameplay mechanics, but in terms of everything else, there's no emotional payoff there. And it doesn't even make sense. You have these incredibly strict requirements and this incredibly complicated guest list for a party in a field that no one no one would want to go to in the first place. And then it's in support of a guy moving to follow a woman that he's in love with who has no interest in him. She's never given him her number. She's never texted him. She left the country without telling him. She's married, and he's going to follow her to another country because he's in love with her. That is creepy, and I think that the developers didn't realize that, or didn't understand it, or didn't, I don't know, care, and it ends up making this last super hard week at the end of a game that I would still argue is too long. It ends up making it around a plot point that most players, I think, are either not going to care about because Dave is just not that interesting or deep of a character to fall in love with him, or they're going to be actively uncomfortable with it if you're like me and you've had to live with a stalker before, so you're not thinking, oh, how sweet, he's in love with her. You're thinking, holy shit, how can I call her and warn her that this guy is going to try to track her across France? So I think that was a mistake. I think that was a big mistake. I think that was a mistake worthy of, fixing. If you have to go in and rewrite it so that Mylarna and Viglov are in a poly-triad relationship with Dave, and they are longing for him to come join them, but he needs to raise the money, please, by all means, go and write that fix for this game, because that would be cool and sweet, and I would actually care about it then. I'd be like, oh my gosh, we gotta reunite these cool guys, and then you'd actually have, the real impact of these Euro policies where, Dave's lovers were deported, and now he's got to pull together money to go join them, and he has to leave behind his home because his home kicked them out. To me, that would be so much stronger than this guy just randomly deciding he's gonna go track down this chick he's stalking. How is that supposed to be the emotional culmination of the game? I just don't understand what they were thinking. So that was just, I don't know. So that's my soapbox. How did I get on that soapbox? I'm just going to put it over there. So anyway, this was Not Tonight. Like I said, for all my complaining and warbling about it, I did enjoy it. I'm glad I played it. I am sorry that it was 35 videos worth for people who weren't interested in it. Sorry. Hopefully I didn't lose any subscribers, because that would make me sad. But now we are done with the game, and whatever I upload next will be something other than this. And I know I said that last time I finished the game, but this time I really, really mean it. So, once again, my name is Anna Mardal. Thank you so much for coming along with me, for listening to me get on my soapbox and make little swears. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.